President Cyril Ramaphosa has finally spoken out following the stunning revelation by Minister of Water and Sanitation, Senzo Mchunu, that he was fully aware of the controversial disbandment of the Presidential Key Transformation Taskforce, PKTT. The president's comments, made during an unplanned media briefing outside the union buildings, have sparked fresh debate over transparency, internal power struggles, and the alleged sidelining of reform-minded officials within his administration. The PKTT, a special advisory body established in 2021, was meant to fast-track economic transformation, infrastructure development, and anti-corruption measures in state-owned enterprises. Its sudden dissolution earlier this month raised eyebrows across political and civic circles, as the team was seen as one of the few entities pushing for genuine accountability within government structures. For weeks, speculation had been swirling about who authorized the disbandment and why it was done so quietly. Mchunu's recent admission, made during a parliamentary committee hearing, dropped a political bombshell. He confirmed that the president was briefed and is fully aware of the decision, effectively ending weeks of guessing but opening a floodgate of questions about Ramaphosa's leadership consistency and his stance on reform. Facing mounting pressure, Ramaphosa broke his silence in what many described as a carefully calibrated statement. There are moments in governance where decisions must be taken in the broader interest of stability and progress, he said. The PKTT's mandate had been completed in key areas, and our focus now is on implementation, not duplication. However, his words did little to quell growing skepticism. Critics argue that the dissolution of the task force is not merely an administrative adjustment but a calculated political move to suppress internal dissent. The PKTT had reportedly clashed with several cabinet ministers and senior officials over tender processes and mismanagement of development funds. Insiders claim that the team's growing influence, particularly in uncovering questionable dealings in water infrastructure projects, had unsettled some powerful figures within the ruling party. Political analysts suggest that Ramaphosa's statement was intended to project control rather than transparency. He's trying to show that he's in command, but the timing and tone suggest defensive maneuvering, said Professor Senzo Mchunu, a political commentator at the University of the Witwatersrand. By admitting awareness only after Mchunu's revelation, the president risks appearing complicit in the very secrecy he has long condemned. The opposition has wasted no time capitalizing on the controversy. The Democratic Alliance, DA, called for a full parliamentary inquiry into the disbandment, accusing Ramaphosa of betraying his own promise of clean governance. Meanwhile, the Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, described the move as a desperate attempt to bury evidence of deep corruption within the state apparatus. Within the ANC, reactions are mixed. Some members privately admit that the decision to dissolve the PKTT was poorly handled and politically costly. Others defend it as a necessary restructuring move, arguing that the task force's recommendations had already been integrated into various government departments. Still, the lack of public communication and the timing coming just months before the national elections have fueled suspicions of internal crisis management rather than progress. Public sentiment remains divided. While a segment of South Africans sympathizes with the president's balancing act in an increasingly fragmented political landscape, many feel disillusioned by yet another episode that hints at opacity and backroom politics. On social media, hashtags like #PKTT disbanded and #Ramaphosa speaks trended overnight, with users expressing frustration over what they perceive as a pattern of promises followed by silence and damage control. For now, Ramaphosa has pledged that the objectives of the PKTT will continue through other state mechanisms. But few are convinced that the disbandment was purely procedural. Insiders claim that several former members of the task force are preparing to release a joint statement outlining their grievances and the true reasons behind the sudden shutdown, a development that could further shake the corridors of power in Pretoria. Whether this episode fades into the long list of unresolved political controversies or ignites a wider reckoning within the ruling party remains to be seen. But one thing is clear, Ramaphosa's attempt to manage the narrative may have come too late. Mchunu's revelation has already exposed fractures within the government and raised uncomfortable questions about who really wields power in South Africa's political machinery and who is working to keep the truth in the shadows.